Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 200 of the Strength Coach Podcast, the official podcast of Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information. You can try StrengthCoach.com out for 3 days, just $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day. Check it out at StrengthCoach.com. All right, I'm your host, Anthony Rena, and the show notes are located at StrengthCoachPodcast.com. Want to get in touch with me, shoot me an email to StrengthCoachPodcast@gmail.com. All right, today on the Coach's Corner, I spoke to Coach Boyle about the upcoming winter seminar at MBSC, his takeaways from today's guest, Henk Kraaijenhof's book, What We Need is Speed, and a question from the forum on what is strength and conditioning. That and much more coming up on the Coach's Corner in a little while. For the Ask the Equipment experts with Perform Better, Aaron McGurr joins us to talk about the current sale, the one day in Baltimore, and a new product called the MFR stick. For the Results Fitness University Business and Fitness segment, Rachel Cosgrove is on to discuss looking at the bigger picture, designing your life. For the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, I have on Coach Henk Kraaijenhof. He's the author of What We Need is Speed. I spoke to Coach Kraaijenhof about his early days working with elite athletes, how he individualizes his work with athletes, what can the average athlete learn from the elite athlete, speed myths, his thoughts on long-term athletic development and windows of opportunity, strength guidelines, recruitment, working with teams, and so much more. Lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. Now it's time for the Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. Coach is in a new, he's using Skype, so everyone's going to hear a different voice. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm a modern man now.
There you go.
I'm going to make fire next.
Yeah, there you go. You're just not driving, that's all. All right, you know what? Let's start out with the seminar, because this is an interesting. We haven't talked about it yet, but you got the MBSC Winter Seminar, Saturday, February 25th. You're actually starting early this year again. I think a couple years ago you did, yeah, because of you have the bigger room now. So it's 8:30 to 5. And you're going to do the keynote from 9 to 10. And then you got some interesting, tell us a little bit about the rest of the day.
Well, the rest of day one, and I'm going to probably butcher the name, Henk Kraaijenhof, I think. I don't know how to pronounce his name in Dutch.
Kraaijenhof.
What? Yeah. Kraaijenhof?
Yep.
Is our keynote speaker, who just wrote a book called What We Need is Speed, which I loved, and we've talked about. I think you got him on the show, and I've tweeted a bunch of stuff from there. So I'm really looking forward to that. As I said to Henk when I talked to him, a lot of times I do selfish things in the sense that, hey, I'm going to bring somebody in that I really want to hear speak. And this is one of those situations where I think this is a guy who, I think more people need to hear. I think people are always thinking about speed development. And he's a guy, as I said in my first review of the book, I think it's the best book on speed training that I've read since Charlie Francis Training System, which means it's the best book that somebody's written in my mind in 20 years.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to ask you about your takeaways from that, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I want to go deeper with that after you tell us about the rest of the seminar.
And the rest is basically what we decided to do, because I think we mentioned this on a previous podcast, but when I went to the Leaders in Sport talk in London, the talks were a little bit shorter. And then, I've been watching and listening to a lot of TED Talks, and I said, why don't we try like a TED Talk format with the staff and give a bunch of staff members, and I think there's 6, and I could be wrong. It might be 6 or 7 guys, Marco, Kevin, Ken, I think Steve Bigelow, Christina, that are all going to kind of pick little topics and do 20-minute talks. So I think it gives some of our staff an opportunity to get up in front of the audience, and it gives us a little more opportunity to explore maybe some more topics So I think it'll be a lot of fun. It's always a good day. And it's one of those things for us, whether we get a huge crowd or an average crowd or a small crowd, doesn't really make any difference, because it's another really good continuing ed opportunity for our staff, in the sense of we'll have Henk in and they'll learn from that. We'll get more people to get the opportunity to speak, and they'll all learn from that. The other people on the staff will see their peers speak. They'll learn from that, and that will get them excited about speaking in the future. So I think it's all positive.
Yeah, it's cool. It's an interesting idea. I love this format. And so it's 6 plus you. It will be 7.
Right.
Cool. So what are you going to answer? One half a question in that 20 minutes?
I think so. Yeah, maybe. I might try to answer a whole question, but I'm not sure.
There you go. And I want to remind people that you are piggybacking this off of a CFSC. So if anybody wants to go, we have a special combo rate as well. So, and you have an early bird.
We do have an early bird. I don't know when it expires.
Oh, it already expired. Never mind. I'm looking at January 22nd.
Oh, never mind. Okay. We had an early bird. You missed it.
All right, cool. Coach, actually, let's segue that into Coach Kraaijenhof's What We Need is Speed. You were raving about it. Like you just said, it's the best book since Charlie Francis, who he talks a little bit about in today's show. Just give us a few takeaways, what you thought was great about this book.
I think the thing that I thought was most outstanding about the book was that it was simple. I don't think he feels any need to try to make you think that he's some super secret genius, which I really like. I really appreciate somebody who has kind of that level of humbleness and humility to say, hey, this isn't rocket science. It's actually fairly simple. And one of the quotes, I'm looking at my takeaways from the book, and one of the things he said is sprinting is so basic that it's hard to improve. We already started at a decent level, whereas in any other sport or in many other sports, one first has to learn the basics. His thing is that everybody can run. And I was talking to my hockey girls about this today because I've been talking to them about him coming in. And I said, it's really cool because if you think about skating, not everybody can skate. Not everybody just puts skates on and can skate. But with running, I mean, everybody may not be good at it, but you never see someone who, if the bus is coming and they're going to get hit, who thinks, oh my God, I have no idea how to run. I'm just going to have to walk out of the way. And if I get plowed over, so be it. They'll break into a run. I like that part of it. And then the thing I also like is he's got a good mind for working with that higher level athlete and talking, he said another thing, keep in mind that the sprinter in many aspects does not fit the average person or the athlete in the statistical curve. And I think that applies across so many things that we talk about with athletes, in that we try to extrapolate research done on average people, on gym classes, on students or whatever, into the world of world-class athletes, and then we wonder why things don't work out the way we want them to. And I just like when you see someone who just comes right out and says some of the simple things that people are not saying. It just speaks, I think, so much to his experience. And obviously, I think because I'm old, I have a real soft spot for those older coaches who really get it, who have this I've been there, I know. Bush Nextater reminds me of Henk in that way, and probably would have been my next choice to drag up here if I hadn't been able to get Henk to do it. Yeah,
I love Boo. I agree with you on that because I was trying to do some research on it because, honestly, this is a little, his stuff, some of the speed stuff could be over my head, or I listen to some other podcasts, like some of Jay DeMaio podcast, like these guys like Ron McKeefer. I mean, they're just in another world. They're so smart, and they do this type of stuff every day where I do a little bit of different work. So sometimes when I listen to some of these things and they're talking about, just some different neurological concepts and dopamine and all these different tests. And I'm like, wow, who the hell's doing this stuff? But Coach Kraaijenhof, at the same time, he can do that. But at the same time, he really wasn't kind of making it overly complicated with anything. If you go to his blog, it's the same way. So I agree with you.
Yeah, as I said, it was just a pleasure to read the book. It was one of those really quick reads. Really great section. He's going to talk on training for team sports because he had a great section in there where, again, he just made some incredibly good common sense statements about, okay, this is what Speed for Team Sports is, and this is what you need to do. And instead of making it like this complicated track and field sort of thing, he was making it into a very simple kind of, here's the differences.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Looking forward to that. Coach, there was somebody had started a thread. It didn't get any traction yet, but I still thought it was kind of interesting. And it was about strength and conditioning. And the basic question was, what are people's definition of strength and conditioning? And you said, okay, I'm going to be Captain Obvious, and it's training to increase strength and improve conditioning. But I want to go a little bit deeper on this topic with you. And, it seems like that's the obvious piece of it, but, doesn't it seem like we've really gone far off of that basic definition?
I don't think so. I don't think we should have. I think some people have. I think and this is part of, I think, what I like and what I talk about all the time is that there's this, this fact that it should be simple. Okay, strength training is working to increase strength. Conditioning training is working to improve your conditioning. And it doesn't need to be anywhere near as complicated as people are making it out to be. And that's what I was kind of like trying to hit the obvious part. So what's your definition of strength and conditioning? Well, it's training for strength and training for conditioning. You know what I mean? It's just that way. It's not complex.
Well, that's what I was saying. I think, though, when we look at some of these things, it seems like, and you just said it too, people try to make it a little more complicated than it is.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. And I think that's, I guess, what I was trying to get across in the answer to the post is that, because he was saying, well, what about, I don't know, tires and sledgehammers, and I get mad when I see it. Well, that's not what I would consider strength and conditioning. But it doesn't mean it's not what someone else considers strength and conditioning. I don't think there is that sort of universal definition that strength and conditioning can only be defined by Mike Boyle's rules and by Mike Boyle's definitions. Yet, at the same time, I would like it to be. I would very strongly prefer that it is that way, but that's not real.
Coach, let me ask you though. Let's just kind of play devil's advocate with the sledgehammer, for example. If I can increase my conditioning through, slamming a sledgehammer into a tire, why isn't that part of strength and conditioning?
Well, my problem is, and that's why I said I think it is. It could be, because there can be bad parts and good parts, right? I mean, it doesn't. I think, and that's where sometimes I play devil's advocate a little bit on the forum in terms of, do you want to just talk about the parts of strength and conditioning that we like, or the parts of strength and conditioning that we think are good? I always said my problem with the sledgehammer is what happens when mom misses and hits herself in the tibia with the sledgehammer. Do you know what I mean? There's certain implements that I look at and think these are more potentially dangerous than others. It's like the same thing with tire flipping. Yeah, tire flipping. Okay, you can flip a tire. I get it. I just don't know, it's hard for most people to attain the deep squat position and get their hands under the tire and keep their lumbar spine flat and or slightly lordotic and then use their legs to flip the tire. Most people will do it the wrong way and eventually will end up with a sore back. So I guess the difference is it's sort of, what are your preferred methods? What are your preferred choices? What types of things that might fall under the realm of strength and conditioning do you not like? That might have been a better series of questions than sort of just, and that's why sometimes I push the envelope a little bit with people in terms of, okay, refine or define your question so that we can look at this in a maybe slightly different way.
Yeah, and I guess I wasn't even thinking about the mom at the moment. I was thinking of strength and conditioning with teams, et cetera. I think.
Well, but even like I said, let's go back to teams. If your star running back, if Dion Lewis suddenly is doing sledgehammer swings this week for training at the Patriots and suddenly misses the tire and hits himself in the shin and fractures his tibia 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, is that good strength and conditioning? And obviously there's potential for injury in every situation.
Yeah.
But there's far more in some than others. And obviously people swinging sledgehammers. I mean, I like to do construction work. I like to split wood. There's things I like to do, but I also realize I've watched people try to swing an axe or a sledgehammer who don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's not pretty.
Yeah, it's not. What about the ropes? Because you mentioned the ropes.
I'm not a rope fan, although we do a little bit of ropes. My only problem with the ropes in general is that when we have done a lot of rope work, we have ended up with a lot of forearm tendonitis. And so I as a result, I'm not like, I like ropes. I think I'd be like, 50-50. You can do it. Be careful. Don't overdo it. Tires and sledgehammers, absolutely not. Don't do it. And then you think, and it's like sled pushes, like them. Sled pulls, like them. Sled drags, don't like them. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes, and I go back, I think people who listen to the podcast probably hear my sort of tired analogies all the time, but I go back to these same ideas about they're all tools. It's depending on how you want to use the tool. The hammer is a good tool. It does not make a great screwdriver. Do you know what I mean? If you want to put screws in, you use a screwdriver, but you could bang screws in with a hammer. And that would work. You could look at that and say, I got the screw into the wall. And I might look at it and say, yeah, but it's going to work its way out really easy because you smashed up the wood trying to get the screw in there. And you might look and go, yeah, but I got the screw into the wall. Mission accomplished. And I think that's how people are sometimes with the whole tool thing, is that they're kind of like, oh, but it worked. And you're like, yeah, but was it the best choice of tool and job, the best combination of tool and job, or was it simply you slamming the square peg into the round hole because that's what you wanted to do? I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. Like some people look, I go back, I use the chainsaw idea. Chainsaw's a really cool tool. It's really good if you're cutting up trees. It's not as good if you're cutting up dimensional lumber for a construction project. But you could use it, probably have a little more waste, probably be a little less precise, but it would be a really bad tool for cabinetry. And I think when you use kind of those absurd analogies, people go, yeah, I kind of get what you mean now. And that's what I want people to look at and say, okay, is it a good tool? Is it the right choice for the job? Is it the best choice for the job?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I wonder, if I think, with technology too, it's a similar idea, right? Where I think a lot of the leaders are using a boatload of technology and software, et cetera. But it's almost like what Henk's saying, Coach Kraaijenhof is saying, like, look, that's for the elite athlete. And, you're trying to use elite athlete concepts with average people. It's not going to work. Maybe there's something to that as well where, look, if we're going to do all these concepts, maybe that's only at a certain level with the technology. It could be a similar thing.
Yeah, and I think it is a similar thing. And because I think we're doing a lot of heart rate monitoring, and I like it. And I think it's really useful. But I found other things. I have found heart rate variability to be less useful in my setting. And that's where I think, again, you've got to, I think a lot of times with technology, we go to technology for technology's sake. We go to technology because we want to be cool and we want to be trendy and we want to be cutting edge and we want to impress our coaches. And I don't know if that's necessarily why we should be doing the things that we're doing.
All right. Well, it's good enough for me. Coach, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk to you next time.
Well, it's good. I can't wait to actually hear this segment in and see how it came out when we Skyped it.
Yeah, you just better get ready for, possibly doing this every time.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time for the Ask the Equipment Experts with Perform Better, and I'm here with the lovely and talented Erin McGurr. Erin, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get right to it. What's happening with the sale?
Actually, the sale is always changing. So right now we still have the spend more, save more. However, I would definitely keep an eye out on the web because in addition to the spend more, save more, we're going to be changing it up, throwing some products in there. So it's going to be like a foam roller, for instance, buy two, get one free. I know we're going to be doing that with a couple different products, and that'll be changing pretty much every day. And then we're also going to be doing, save 15% on items that are on the most popular page. So depending on what day you look or what time, I would say you can pretty much hit any of those. So always changing it up, but trying to keep it exciting and trying to get you guys to save some money a little bit.
All right. Well, that's always a good thing. We'll full swing with the 1 days. What's next?
Next 1 day is going to be in Baltimore. So we just got back from San Francisco. It was an awesome turnout. Everyone did a great job, completely sold out. So Baltimore is up next. It's going to be February 4th, and we have Lee Burton, Robert Dos Remedios, Brandon Marcello, and Charlie Weingroff, and those four will be there. So looking forward to that one.
All right, great lineup as always. We've seen the evolution of so many different self-myofascial release tools. They've come a long way, usually, which means they're getting much harder to use. Tell us about a new product you guys have, the MFR stick.
Yes, the MFR stick is new for us. It is our firmest massage stick. So we did come out with it this year. Like you said, there's always things changing. Some people like things, a little more firm. Some people like it softer. Depending on your clients, they can change one day to the next if they're, sore. But for the stick, we've always had people say they want something firm. I know a lot of people will roll around on a PVC pipe or something crazy like that. But we do have this stick that we came out with, and it's stainless steel, and it's hard. So it doesn't bend, doesn't flex. It does have ball bearings in the handles, which is pretty cool. But we've been getting some great feedback from a lot of our bigger guys and professional guys just because it really does dig into the muscle. And like I said, it doesn't flex, doesn't bend. It does have a smaller diameter than most of the other sticks, so it's thinner. But the good thing about that is you can really get into, some areas and fine-tune the pressure. So instead of kind of, if you have a small trigger point somewhere, instead of rolling, across the whole muscle, you can really pinpoint that one area and dig in. Another thing I like about it, because of the ball bearings and the handles, instead of actually, moving your arms up and down when you do hit a trigger point, I always find myself kind of just rolling my wrist a little bit, and it just happens to really dig in and move. So you don't have to put too much work in there to get a lot of pressure. So I like that aspect of it. And like I said, it is stainless steel, so it seems to have kind of a cooling effect. Obviously, it's just a material, but I do like that it's a little colder. So when I'm rolling, especially afterwards, it feels nice.
All right. I don't know about that. It could be a bad thing, too, early in the morning with a cold stick. You got to be one bad MFer to use that thing on a winter morning. See what I did there?
I like that little play on words. I like it.
I don't know about that one. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk about the MFR stick, the 1 day, and the multitude of sales going on at Perform Better.
Thanks for having me.
Hello, it's Rachel Cosgrove with the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment on the Strength Coach podcast. And as we start off the new year, as we're heading into 2017, I know that you guys are probably listening to this and we're still at the start of the year. It's a great time for us to really, think about the bigger picture, think about what we want, really get back to the idea of designing your life. Really deciding, what is it that I want when it comes to your business, it comes to your career, it comes to, with fitness. It's really important to take a day, really clear your schedule, sit down, find somewhere where you can really think, you can really, have that time to really, digest and think about your last year, reflect on where you've come in the industry, where you've come with your career, who you've helped, and then where you're going. And, the clearer you can get with your vision of where you want to go, the sooner it will become your reality. And this is something throughout our business and our career we've every year we sit down, we write down goals, and it's best to actually get a piece of paper and a pen or a journal or somewhere that you can actually write them. I do feel there's power in actually writing the goal of what you want to accomplish. This really giving you that bigger picture, giving you that outcome that you're trying to create with your business and with your life will make everything else seem so much easier. As you do, whether you're about to open your fitness business, whether maybe you're working for somebody and you're treating your you should always think of it as your business, no matter what. Even if you are working for somebody else, it's still your business, your career, and you want to think of it that way. And so, when you look at where you're going, what is it, when you have that outcome, you have that idea of what you want to create, it's really going to help you to get through all of the obstacles, because as you open your business, as you grow, as you decide your next steps, there's going to be things that are going to come up. You're going to have obstacles. You're going to have frustrations. It's inevitable that things are going to, come in the way, and you're going to have to, find ways around those. And if you have that outcome, you have that idea of what you want to create, it makes it much easier to get through those obstacles and to break through those inevitable frustrations to make it happen. And so if you haven't done this in a while, then now is a great time to do it. Part of my process is really, I usually start with just sitting down and brainstorming. And this is actually an idea from a book called The Artist's Way that I read years ago, called Morning Pages. And it's first thing in the morning, blank piece of paper, and you just write, and you write anything that comes in your mind. Nobody's going to read it. It's only for you. So it's really, it's not about, so that you don't end up writing it for somebody else. You're only writing it just to get everything out that's in your mind. And so you really just, stream of consciousness, write anything that comes in your mind. Any goals you want to create, any experiences you want to have, anything that really is important to you, and you just brainstorm and get that out all on paper. And then from there, you can start to sort through that and figure out, okay, what's in here? What do I really want to focus in on this year, in 2017? Do I want to open my own gym? Do I want to, maybe you already have your own facility and you're looking to get to a certain number of clients. Maybe you want to build your team. What is it that you want to do next? And so setting those, from that, really pulling out, what are those 1-year goals, those 5-year goals, those 10-year goals? And then I'm a very visual person, and so I love creating a vision board. And so I just recently did my latest vision board for this year. And I think that's something that, with a vision board, make sure that it's well-rounded. I think as fitness people, a lot of times we can be really good at setting the fitness goals. And so our vision board can quickly become, a collage of maybe 6-pack abs and, accomplishing fitness feats. But you also want to make sure you have things on there that are not just fitness oriented, that you do have, whether it's money and career, whether it's time with family and friends. What are the things that you want to accomplish or learn, so that you have a well-rounded, goals, that you're not just really putting your focus in one area of your life. And so just, really make sure that you do have all different areas, and you just find pictures that remind you of each of those goals. And so your board, becomes really a reminder, so that you see it every day and you see those pictures and those images, and those are powerful images that really give you that feeling of, it's really about the feeling. Accomplishing these goals, how's that going to make you feel? And if you can find pictures that give you that feeling, that's where, it's going to become a powerful tool for you. So using that tool, using a vision board, I like to have it on a piece of a board that you can move. So you can put it that way. If it's sitting in one place too long and you start to not see it, you can move it to someplace else, so that, it stays at the front of your mind, stays, top of mind. Every time you start your day, you remember, okay, these are my goals. This is what I'm working towards. Let me figure out my action plan today to accomplish what's on my vision board and my goals for today. So that's my, my lesson for today is really to get everybody refocused and really think about what is it you are trying to accomplish. Get that bigger picture in mind. Remember, the clearer your vision is, the sooner it will become your reality. So really take that time to think about where you want to go, what you want to accomplish, and what your ideal day is like, and really, what you want out of your career and your business. So hopefully that gives you some homework. Again, this is the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. We do have our mastermind, or actually our mentorship, live 2-day mentorship coming up in March. So check out our website, resultsfitnessuniversity.com, and that is selling out. So hopefully there's still spaces if you do want to come on out and hang out with us for 2 days. We'd love to have you. And Thanks so much.
All right, now it's time for the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach. And today I have the pleasure of having Coach Henk Kraaijenhof on. And Coach Kraaijenhof is the author of What We Need is Speed. Coach Boyle, you probably saw some of his tweets out there. Coach Boyle loved this book. You can find more information about Coach Kraaijenhof at helpingthebesttogetbetter.com. Coach, thanks for coming on today.
Okay, you're welcome, Anthony.
All right. I mean, this is obviously this topic of speed is obviously every coach wants to know about it. Whether you're coaching track and field, ice hockey, basketball, everybody wants to talk about speed. And I think like we were talking earlier, people want to get too detailed first without getting into a foundation. But you talk about coaching sprints. It's still more of an art than a science. And averaged values and generalized principles hardly play a role in daily coaching, especially when we're working with individuals who are very unique in many aspects. And you tell a story of in the 80s when you were working with your kind of first two gifted world-class athletes. And I think that really gives us a great picture into what you're talking about here. Tell us that story of those working with those two athletes.
Yeah, I started off as a young coach doing all the courses and classes and all the textbooks. And armed with this knowledge, I thought, well, tell me something. I know it all. Until I ran into my first world-class athletes, and then everything I learned from my teachers and from the textbook didn't seem to work for her. And so I had to think again, go back to the drawing board, and try to pull away from all the old dogmas and paradigms that were there about speed training. So I listened and talked to some colleagues, for instance, Charlie Francis, which I met in 1981 for the first time, and I talked to him. And then, okay, well, now I understand. This genetic freak is different from the average athlete that I have been coaching before. Until a couple of years later, I coached another athlete, also world class, running under 11 seconds, 10:83, I think it was. And armed with my theoretical knowledge of the past and my practical experience and the knowledge I gained from the first athlete I coached, I thought, well, I know it all. And strange enough, all the things that I learned from the first world class athletes didn't apply to the second one. So that made a bell ring and thinking, well, maybe everybody's different, completely different. The things that we learn from science and from sports sciences are geared towards the average athlete. But I don't coach average athletes. I coach unique individuals all the time. So instead of looking for a program that I try to apply to all athletes, I look at the needs, the demands, the limitations, the capabilities of each individual athlete. At one hand, I look at the demands of competition, what is needed to run fast at that level, and then try to bridge that gap between what I have and what I need, without looking at a program that I try to apply to everyone.
I think, and you said, the light started blinking. Maybe we need to look on a strict individual basis. And you say develop your program based on the athlete. Don't develop the athlete based on your program. But you know what, Coach? I think a lot of coaches say this, right? But it's lip service. And the textbook knowledge you said didn't help you at the time, but neither did the experience from athlete A help you with athlete B. So we have to start out with that clean slate every time. But again, this is, I think a lot of coaches do say that. Can you give us a snapshot into what this process looks like?
Well, it's not, at one hand, it's not rocket science. It's a matter of trial and error, and also taking your time. Have some patience, because a new generation of coaches, young coaches, don't have the time or the patience. Everybody wants a world-class athlete next week, and that's not going to happen. It takes a couple of years before you develop an Olympic athlete, most of the time in most sports. And I work with athletes somewhere between 8 and 12 years. That's a long time. And I don't have a whole bunch of athletes to my disposition. It's not a pond that I can throw my angle in and take out the best fish. It's a small country. I only have a few athletes, so I have to take very good care of the few athletes that I have instead of survival of the fittest. Having 100 athletes, giving them all the same program, one survives, and well, I'm a great coach. But in the process, I destroyed 99 athletes that never reached their full potential because they all did the same program, and only the best and the strongest one survives. So that's the bottom line. There is very few consensus about what for each individual. You have seen coaches look at something simple like a sprint. You have so many different concepts of sprinting. There's athletes becoming very good by lifting lots of weights, getting stronger and getting stronger and getting stronger. Look at Ben Johnson, Charlie Francis, squats and bench press tremendously. But there's also athletes almost at the same level or a little bit better, a little bit worse, that never lifted weights in their life. And I wouldn't have believed it if I wouldn't have seen it with my own eyes and seen them struggle with squats with 100 pounds. It's just ridiculous compared to the. So, yeah, it's an expedition into the unknown. So it's not rocket science. It's not difficult. We know all the components. We don't know how this component will work out for this individual athlete. And that's the thing you have to figure out. Now, it doesn't take you 12 years to figure it out. We don't have 12 years time with each athlete. But it will take you a couple of months before you figure out how the athlete responds to this kind of training.
We can't really learn the world-class athlete can't learn from these average norms, et cetera, from the average athlete. But can the average athlete learn from the world-class athlete?
No, there's no straight line going down from the world-class athletes to the average athletes, just because their design is different. If you have 80% fast-twitch fibers, and exercises that would be excellent for you would not do well to the athlete with only 50% of fast-twitch fibers. I make a joke of it. I say, well, jumping is for cats, not for cows. It's trying to make a cow jump. It's just not designed to jump. A cat or a tiger or a lion or a panther is designed for jumping. A cow is not. So this is what you get if you try to copy the programs and the ideas of world-class athletes to the average athlete, and also that's not going to work. Unfortunately, you can learn some things because there's more experiments done on elite athletes. But their nervous system is wired differently. Their autonomic nervous system is differently. One of my athletes ran a world record without one single step of warming up. No warming up whatsoever. That was the first athlete I encountered, as a matter of fact. But I would never, ever do this with any other athlete. Allow an athlete to prepare for a World Championships race or a European Championships race at world-class level without a warming up. I would never do that. So it's not something that anybody should try, unless you know the strength and the capabilities of this individual athlete.
Coach, but at the same time, you say, I love that analogy with the cat and the cow. But at the same time, one of the things in a recent blog post that you wrote is sprinters are born. So, I mean, there's got to be some level of genetics that obviously plays a part in this. Can you expand on this speed myth part 1, sprinters are born?
Yeah, but there's a wrong interpretation of sprinters are born. That number one, we are all born. We are all born with a certain genetic traits that we inherited from our parents. So your muscle fiber type, there's no way escaping that, comes from your parents. Now there could be 80-20, 80 fast, 20 slow, or 50-50. But the thing is, you start with that. That's your starting point. So that is, it means you're born with it. That's not something that is very, very flexible. It's like you're born with blue eyes or with green eyes or with brown eyes. It's something you're born with. Now, the eye color of the eye you cannot change, but you can change the composition of your muscle fiber type. That's true. So you're born with everything that you have when you when you came out of your mother, but some things are still to be molded and are flexible, while some things are very rigid. So this is, you're born. So some things you cannot, Usain Bolt, even if everybody considered him too tall to run fast, the same thing happened to me with my coach said, Henk, I am exactly the same height as Usain Bolt. You will never sprint fast, or fast on the minute, because you're too tall. So, there's no way changing it anymore. If you're 6'6", how can you change it? There's no way changing it, but you can change some things. You can. Your muscle is a very, very flexible tissue as far as that's concerned. It responds very well to adaptation. You can change the amount of muscle tissue. You can change the quality of muscle tissue. Your brain is changing all the time. Every second of your life, your brain is changing with every experience, great or small. Every thing that you perceive, your brain is changed a tiny little bit. So don't try to change the things that you can, but try to change the things that you can change. And in former days, we thought, muscle fiber composition is genetically determined. You cannot change it. And now we know you can change it. So, some things change over time.
Coach, along those lines that you say the composition of the muscle fibers, it's possible to change. I've read about long-term athletic development model and the concept of windows of opportunity. That, like, for example, ages 6 to 9 is proposed in long-term athletic development model as the ideal window peak for motor skill coordination training. And then if we don't develop those qualities, during the windows. Yeah. So for speed, the first window is between 6 and 9. That we're never going to reach that potential. And I know there's contradicting research to that, but I wanted to get your take on this.
No, exactly. There's 3 little points here. First of all, the long-term athlete development is something that there's a plan made by one overall organization, like in the former East German sports organization, that is coherent and consistent from the moment you are selected from 4 years old, for instance, at kindergarten, to do some kind of sports until you quit being an athlete and then become a recreational athlete. So that whole line is set up by one organization. Normally, this is not the way the cookie crumbles in the Western society, because we become member of, at least in Holland, member of a sports club. You have a club coach. The one that you have a PE teacher that gets you to the club. Then you have the club coach. Then you have a regional coach, is a different one. And then you have a national coach, and then and so on and so on. And you might have an international coach. You might have 5 different coaches with all completely different opinions about how training should be. So you come from the national coach who says, well, you should lift weights. And then you go to an international coach and no, weights is just, it's not going to work. You shouldn't never lift weights. It was stupid. So there's no coherent line from the beginning to the end of your career. That's already a limitation of the long-term athlete development. Most of the time, there's no overlap. Your first coach doesn't know what your next coach needs, and your last coach doesn't care what the first coaches that you had were doing before. So that's a limitation to the long-term athlete development. Second one is the windows of opportunity, the rate of development. Well, we looked at the research here in Europe, and we couldn't find a strong consensus in those I would say, ages. There's a lack of consensus. Which age is optimal to develop a certain motor quality? I have it all set up in a table, and you'll see completely different opinions there, and they're all based on let me say, solid research. So that's another one. We don't really know. The third point is the athletes that I get, and most of the time are 17 years or older, so I have to do what they did when they were 6 years old. If they did sports or sprinting or playing soccer, or maybe they didn't do anything. I have to deal with it because they are already 10 years too late. So most of the time we're not in a privileged situation where we can make kids work out when they are the way we wanted when they were 6 or 7 or leave alone 12 years old. We got to deal with what we have. So in theory, it's a great idea, and the concept makes sense, but it's just a utopian concept. Let me say this, and the harsh reality of daily life in sports, we barely see this.
Okay, great. Coach, a little confusing for me, just going back to this coaching the sprinter and speed and what is trainable. You said sprinting is so basic that it's hard to improve. We already start at a decent level, whereas in many other sports, one first has to learn the basics. You also said one of the main problems is very hard to improve speed. You said one of the myths was good sprinting technique is crucial for good sprinting results. So I want you to expand on this because, what are we doing then?
Yeah, but that's a good question. That basically you're taking my question, what we are doing. We try to think on something on which we don't have a very clear idea what we are doing. We try to improve technique, but what is a good technique? For me, technique is a solution to a certain task. You will see that the task is different from running with a strong headwind and running with a strong tailwind, or running on a cinder track or a grass track and running on a synthetic track. You'll see from the stride length, the stride frequency, and times that even if the task is to run 100 meters very fast from A to B, the same distance, the task is accomplished in a different way, contact times and everything, and the body is trying to fulfill this task as well as they can. So this is technique is always dependent on the task and the environmental situation. There is no such thing as the perfect technique. No, and I'm talking about one athlete only. If you talk about, you can see that Asafa Powell is running in a different way than Usain Bolt. And even if they have the same coach, you can see athletes running differently just because they are designed this way. It has to do with leg length, with the leverage, with muscle fiber composition, with strength and weaknesses, with limitations in the range of motion, with some unknown preferences to run this way. So this is why athletes run this way. We try to change it because we have this perfect picture, again, this picture of the average athlete that runs this fast. So I think, again, in technical sense and running technique sense, it's important to figure out a way in which your athlete is running the fast way, because there's different ways of people running fast. Look at the tremendous difference between Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson at a time. And back in the 1980s, you could see totally different athletes with totally different techniques and totally different approach, still running almost as fast in hundreds of seconds. So there's different ways to run fast. You have to figure out the way for your athlete to run as fast as he or she can, looking at this individual pattern as a matter of individual profile. And it's a hard task because most of the time we are not in the privileged situation to have only 1 or 2 or 3 athletes we are coaching. We're coaching maybe 20 athletes in a group. Then it becomes a hell of a lot more different to give everybody an individual program. I'm 100% sure. Yeah. But nobody ever said it was an easy task to do. So if I have been dealing with 10, 12 athletes of world-class level at the same time, and everybody got a different program. Yeah, it takes more time, though.
Yeah. It's funny. I think that concept, I know I work with a lot of golfers, so that a lot of like what Titleist tries to do is really get that Titleist Performance Institute, get that message across. A similar one to what you're saying is, you can't have one kind of swing one way to swing because everybody's body is so different. And then again, like you said, there's going to be different situations. There's going to be wind, there's going to be rain, there's going to be all these different situations that you're going to have to. There's different grass, so you're going to have to change in those situations. So I guess you can still coach or technique based on you're not saying throw technique out the window. You're saying coach the technique based on that athlete, based on the situation.
Absolutely. You have to figure out the best technique. We did a lot of work on I worked with one golfer, though, in the past. I tested him. His name is Patrick Harrington, an Irish golfer, maybe 10 years ago. And you can see the amount of clubs he has and the amount of shoes. It's just incredible amount of different shoes. All because the task is different and the circumstances are different and the grass is different. So yeah, absolutely. We did a lot of scientific research on starting blocks. What is the optimal position of starting blocks? Well, we couldn't figure it out because it depended, for instance, on your leg length. If you're a short athlete, you can put up your starting blocks much closer to the starting line than a tall athlete. And then looking at angles, and we just couldn't find any consensus of what was the best overall starting technique. And even stronger, it might depend on the shape. It might depend in the beginning of the season, the end of the season. It might be different in an optimal angle, just because you got stronger. If you're stronger, it's like standing up from a deep squat or a quarter squat or half squat. It's easier. So, but the moment you're stronger, it's probably more profitable to have a smaller knee angle from the blocks. That means sit closer, get the starting blocks close to the line. Then you can probably start faster. But if you're not that strong, you will have a problem overcoming that momentum, that 90-degree angle to do that. So it depends on your strength levels even. So technique is always related to conditioning, to levels of conditioning, to strength or to speed in itself or to endurance. So you see running technique change if people get tired. So what is the optimal running technique? Why would the technique decline? Well, just because of physiological factors playing a role. People get tired, produce lactic acid, neuromuscular fatigue, central fatigue, call it what you want. But you see technique change, even within a race. So it says there's no technique all over the race. And if we talk about sprinting technique, then we're talking about 4 or 5 different techniques. The technique of acceleration is different from the technique of running, maximum speed. And the technique of clearing the blocks is different from dipping at the finish. So talking about different techniques here, basically. With different tasks, let me say that.
Yeah. Well, let's segue that into the weight training, and I'll just quote from your book. If maximum strength was the most important factor, then weightlifters and powerlifters would be the fastest sprinters. If explosive strength was the most important factor, expressed in jumping power, then basketball players, volleyball players, and triple jumpers would be our best sprinters. And as we know, they are not. So turn away from the easy solutions and let us look at a more sophisticated way to improve. And you have some guidelines, but I want to go over a few of the guidelines. Number 1 and 2, train as much as necessary, not as much as possible. And number 2, look at optimal strength level. It isn't linear. Can you just, because that's almost like it depends. How are you finding out the optimal strength level?
That's not easy. Because there's no guidelines there. But say common sense, which is not that common though, but common sense will help us out there. And it's just a matter of trial. I had an athlete who was a female athlete who was running in the 1080s in the 100 meters already in the 1980s. And she was lifting, we say, don't let me lie, around 100, 120 pounds in squats. That's nothing. I've seen 12-year-old girls doing that with a one-leg squat. So that's ridiculous. But she ran 1083 already at that time. So what can you say? Was that her maximum strength level, her optimal strength level? It probably wasn't. So if you want to run faster, something has to change. So why not change the strength level? Why not making her stronger and see what happens? And then yes, she got stronger and she got better in the 60 meters and she got better in the 100 meters. And then while the 200 meters it doesn't play that much of a role, leave alone the 400 meters, but she got faster in the acceleration. She got faster at maximum speed. So this is probably the hardest task, especially at elite level. There's not too many people where you can learn from who run or see what they have done because they run under 1080. There's only a handful of women ever running 1080 or faster. So there's not much to learn. And they're all different and they're all different coaches with different ideas. And still they're running 1080 or faster. So common sense will tell us, okay, endurance, good. Yeah, no problem. Technique, what can I say? It must have been good. There was no serious limitations there. Maximum speed, yeah, excellent. But strength was weaker than anybody else. So, let's try to make her stronger. Explosiveness, measure it the jumping power or vertical jump. Oh, ridiculously low. Okay, try to improve that. So, try to improve maximum strength, try to improve explosive strength, and see what happens. And guess what? By that, and keeping all the other things more or less constant or the same like before, she improved a lot. So, basically, we were looking at the weak points and trying to improve the weak points that were there. The strong points were already strong. There was not so much gain to be made by making her faster or doing more endurance work. Maybe we reached the end of the adaptability there. But in strength, for sure not. So that was as simple as that.
Well, I guess also you're saying, but still at the same time, don't jump to the conclusion that just because they don't have the greatest vertical jump means that's the weak link.
No, don't forget. There's no medals for vertical jumps. There's no medals for lifting weight. There's medals for running 100 meter fast. So it's always a means to an end. And some people are mistaken, and linear thinking drives them to say, okay, if we make them stronger, automatically they get faster. No, and that's just not true. That's just true. That's too simple. If you get more explosive, yes, but if your technique doesn't respond accordingly to your explosiveness, and you don't know what to do when your body hits the track again after your first step, then, well, all explosiveness is lost. And that's why a volleyball player with a tremendous vertical jump, he doesn't know how to sprint. He has no technically, he's way behind a sprinter, might jump 4 inches higher than sprinters. So technique always will play a role. You cannot see things unrelated to each other. They are closely related.
Absolutely.
You can improve one factor without any effect on the others. Your other factors might as well increase. That's good. Hey? You call it a cross adaptation. So you increase strength and then you might run faster. Hey, that's great. But when you increase strength, what happens to endurance? Maybe you increase strength, but it goes at the expense of endurance. So all those factors are interrelated, have some interference with each other, some of them positive, some of them neutral, and some of them are negative. So you have to look at the whole picture.
All right, good stuff. Coach, now next one, a sprinter should not look for hypertrophy or bodybuilding methods, more for recruitment methods. How are we looking for recruitment methods? Talk to us about that.
Okay, there's different ways. And mainly recruitment of course, we're talking fast fibers here, not slow fibers. There's different ways to do that. One way is, of course, using power training instead of strength training. Not looking at maximum strength, but the power output. And the concept, which is now getting popular in the US, is velocity-based training, which is basically what we called in the 1980s and 90s called power training. Training for power output expressed in watts per kilogram body weight, instead of just looking at the numbers on the plates, saying how many pounds and how many kilograms. So looking at more at the relationship between the force and the velocity with which you move the weight, not only at the weight itself. So there's one way to recruit fast muscle fibers, because every kilogram of muscle you have to move it over the track as well. So especially in explosive events, you should be as light as possible and as strong as possible. If you're 100 kilograms, you have to move it over the track. Sometimes it works if you're overly strong and overly expressive. Sometimes in let's say, American football players, of course. but they never have to run 100 meters or 200 meters. Because then endurance is going to play a role as well. And for acceleration, yeah, it's great. Look at strongman competitions. If you have to run 10 meters and pulling a truck, hey, it's great to be to weigh a little bit heavier. But if you're a long jumper, a high jumper, or a hurdler, or a sprinter, well, it's not necessarily going to be in your advantage to weigh more. So look at maximum strength without hypertrophy. That means less repetitions, below 6 repetitions. Not too many sets, not 5 or 6 sets, but only 2, 3 or maximum 4 sets. Long rest in between, and probably high intensity, over 85% of your body weight. And then your muscle will not hypertrophy as much as you do with the classic bodybuilding training. There's power training, maximum strength training with high intensity. Of course, explosive strength training as well, to learn how to recruit the fast muscle fibers. Jumping, bounding, plyometrics. But the risk here is the risk of injury. In the long term, the risk of injury in plyometrics is really high. So you have to look at the individual risk benefit ratio. So some of my athletes jumped a lot. They were like kangaroos. They could jump without getting injured. And I love jumping with them. And some of my athletes were not allowed to jump because after 2 sets of jumping, they were just rubbing their knees or grabbing their backs or feeling their Achilles tendons because, the body wasn't designed to jump. That's all. So those are the 3 main things. And there's a lot of, let me say, artificial methods to work on recruitment, like electromyostimulation. If you want to be a bodybuilder, EMS is not going to help you a lot. But for recruitment, it works pretty well. There's the work with eccentric training. Again, if you want to do bodybuilding, of course, it's part of a bodybuilding program, like negative reps. But the effect on recruitment is not that high. So you have to look at methods that will give you the strength, but not will give you the extra muscle mass that you don't need.
Coach, we're talking about a lot of different components here. Can you expand on your thoughts of block training versus concurrent training?
Yeah. We're talking more about a longer time frame. We tried basically a lot of things in the past. It wasn't from strength; it was from weakness because it was born from anxiety because we never good enough. We're never doing the right thing. So we tried to experiment with a lot of things. One of the things was that most people still do is concurrent training 2 qualities in a short time frame, lifting weights and doing the running in the same day or endurance running at the same day, which might not develop each quality to a maximum level, because they will fight each other on a biochemical level, on the level of molecular biology inside the muscle cell, its signal transduction systems and metabolic pathways. They're fighting each other. So you get no optimum development. That's why we look at block training, maybe not even in the long term, looking in weeks and years, but looking in the short term. We try to pull the training apart and not trying to do many components in one workout or in one day. A colleague of mine, he was a national coach, he started with doing some starts on the blocks, and then he had to do some bounding, and then on the same day lifting weights and doing some tempo training. So all in all the athletes got injured or overtrained and no results whatsoever. But look at yourself. If you have a plate, you put on there an apple cake, and you put on there some sushi, and you put on there some pizza. It doesn't taste too well, does it? So why would you mix everything on your plate, or not mix everything on your plate and still mix everything in the same workout? It's not a good composition there.
Yeah.
So we pull things apart. We try to take some time between the strength training and the weight training. between the sprint training and endurance tempo training, or between technique training and the weight training. We try to take some time in between as much as possible. Now, if you work out twice a week, that's an easy task.
Yeah.
If you work out 20 times a week, like the athletes, there's no way avoiding that you do some different components on the same day, or even in the same workout. But that's also the nature of competition. You know, you do 5 events in the same day, so then there is less of a problem. But don't try to cram every component. Okay, we start with a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that, all because you're anxious or you're afraid to miss something. Be strong and set your priorities for that day or for that week. Don't be afraid that you miss something, because things don't wear off that fast in the first place. You know that. So if you don't lift weights for 3 days, it's not that you're going back to the strength levels of a year ago. It doesn't wear off that fast.
Yeah. Like you said earlier, we got to be a little bit more patient. Good stuff. Coach, let's finish up the last few minutes with a little bit about training speed for team sports, because we got a lot of coaches out there that work with teams, a lot of college coaches, a lot of professional coaches. And that's actually your topic this year at the Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning Winter Seminar on February 25th. You're going to be there. Give us an overview of training speed for team sports.
Yeah, of course, I started working with sprinters in track and field, which is, as a matter of fact, is simple. The rules are simple, and it's always the same. It's a very stereotyped way of sprinting. And the interesting thing is you got acceleration, maximum speed, and speed endurance. Well, in most team sports, I also work for field hockey, national or the Olympic team, for Olympic volleyball team, for soccer, Juventus, the soccer club in Italy. I work for them. It's different. First of all, you seldom sprint 100 meters straight like you do in track and field. So you seldom reach the phase of speed endurance, as a matter of fact. Well, you have to repeat yourself by sprinting more times in a day. Only sprint twice a day, no more than that. Or if you run another event, 100 and 200 meters or relay, maybe 3 times a day. And there's a couple of hours in between. In soccer, you sprint a couple of times a minute. So, but they're all short sprints. So the main factor, of course, it's obvious, is acceleration. Acceleration capacity is for most sports, like in tennis. I also work with tennis. Is the most important. It's not maximum speed, because you never reach maximum speed after 40, 50, or 60 meters. You never reach that point where you have to run at maximum speed. And if it happens once in a match, then you're able to do that in the first place. But in tennis, it's impossible. Apart from that, we have to look more at developing other motor qualities like anticipation, quality of anticipation, decision-making times, reaction time. So those are more important factors than running maximum speed, which shouldn't overdo it. A lot of teams made the mistake by hiring track coaches, and track coaches transferred their knowledge of running track 100 meters to team sport. But it's completely different. There's no way to compare sprinting in a team sport and sprinting on the track. If it was only for the factors I already mentioned, but in track, there's no ball that you have to control. There's no opponents you have to take care of. And there's no teammates that you have to see where they are standing. You have to look around. You have to be alert. You have to have an overview of the game. In 100 meters, you can run, well, like a zombie, just with your eyes on the tape. 100 meters further down the road in a tunnel. There's nothing else that you have to consider. So, sprinting or speed in team sport is a little bit more is more difficult, because more components involved, more technique involved, in the sense that it's not stereotype. You have to accelerate, decelerate, turn around. You have to control the ball. You have to jump. You have to throw. You have to hit. You have to do a myriad of other things that you don't have in the 100 meters. So we can learn something from sprinting, from track sprinting, absolutely. But I would say that it's only 20% or 10% that we can learn from that. Most of the things are just redundant for sprinting and team sport. We're looking at basically at a different ballgame.
Interesting. All right, well, Coach, we're looking forward to your trip on the boat across the ocean to come here for Coach Boyle's winter seminar. So we really appreciate you coming on. Your book, What We Need is Speed, is really all the talk in the strength and conditioning community. I'll remind everybody, we'll have a link to your website, helpingthebesttogetbetter.com. Coach, thanks so much for coming on today.
Okay, Anthony, you're welcome. It was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to come and see you guys so we can talk a little bit more short than this. I know a podcast is always limited in its capability to transfer information. It's just verbalizing everything. Well, if you show a picture, if you show a little video, it explains a lot of things more, and there's so many more things to talk about. But I'm looking forward, and thanks for the opportunity to have this podcast.
All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 200 of the Train Coach Podcast. Special thanks to Chris Parr, Aaron McGurr, and the folks over at Perform Better. You can check them out at performbetter.com for all their products and info on their educational seminars. Thanks to Coach Boyle and Coach Henk Kraaijenhof for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning, performance enhancement, and speed. Rachel Cosgrove for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. Check them out at resultsfitnessuniversity.com. Functional Movement Systems, check them out at functionalmovement.com. And of course, remember, you can try strengthcoach.com out for 3 days, just $1. You'll have access to the articles, videos, programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day. To access that offer, go to strengthcoach.com. Click Join Now to get started on your trial. My name is Anthony Renner. You can reach me at traincoachpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.